the HEB Big League Weekend here in San Antonio. From the friendly confines of the Alamo Dome, it's your Texas Rangers and the Los Angeles Dodgers. And welcome into everybody a Saturday afternoon of Ranger Baseball. With Tom Grieve, I'm Steve Busby. Glad to have you along, and it's going to be a matchup today of some pretty hard-throwing right-handers. For the Rangers, Anthony Renato on the mound, Tom.
He is, Buzz, and one of the things the Rangers realized from last year is that they needed more depth in the starting rotation. One of the guys they acquired was Anthony Renato. They got him in a trade with the Red Sox for Robbie Ross. He had a brief appearance last year with the Red Sox. He struggled in the big leagues, but prior to that in AAA, he had 24 starts. He was the pitcher of the year in the International League. He led the league in wins. He led the league in ERA. He's a big, strong kid. Was the 39th pick in the 2010 draft out of a big-time baseball school like LSU. So he's got a pretty good pedigree. He's still in the mix. Big start for him this afternoon.
And the Rangers certainly hope that he can transfer that to the big leagues. They would love to have a hard-throwing right-hand. He'll be opposed by Zach Greinke for the Dodgers here this afternoon. We'll come back with the starting lineups in the first pitch right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealer. Visit your Texas Ford dealer today. By Frost Banking, Investments, and Insurance. And by HEB, no store does more. This is part of HEB Weekend, Big League Weekend down here in San Antonio. Nice crowd on hand. Looks to be larger than the 20,000 that were here last night. Maybe approaching 30,000 here this afternoon. And they would love to see the favorite Rangers get a victory and split this series. The Dodgers winning last night by an 11-6 count. Well, Anthony Renato and company out there now to get ready to get this game underway. And we'll take a look at the Los Angeles Dodgers starting lineup that will face Renato here this afternoon. Kike Hernandez will lead things off. He's playing shortstop today. Justin Turner bats second, plays third. Next is the right fielder, Yasiel Puig. Adrian Gonzalez bats cleanup. He's at first. Yasmani Grandal behind the plate this afternoon and hitting fifth. Alex Guerrero in left field. Jock Peterson back in the lineup in center. He's batting seventh. Darwin Bonney is the second baseman. And as we mentioned last night, Zach Greinke will bat ninth today. No DH for the Dodgers.
Anthony Renato will start for the Rangers. big, tall, strong right-hander. We talked about him in the open. High draft choice out of LSU, big-time baseball program. He's pitched very well. 35-18 in the minor leagues, 14-4 last year at AAA. Led the International League in wins, led the International League in ERA. He's among a number of pitchers vying for a spot in the Ranger rotation. He's still in the mix at this stage of spring training. Therefore, today's a very big game for him. A little bit tough in this ballpark to evaluate. At the same time, he knows what he's got to do. He's got to go out there with good stuff, command the strike zone, and impress Mike Maddox and Steve Buechele today.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the Ranger defense backing Renato up here this afternoon. The outfield has Smolinski, Martin, and Hoying left, center, and right. Rosales at first, Odor and Andrews up the middle, Joey Gallo at third. And Chris Jimenez is calling the pitches here this afternoon. He is behind the plate with Anthony Renato, the big 6'7" right-hander on the hill. A New Jersey product. And as Tom told you, via LSU, the Bengal baseball program down there. And the first pitch to Kike Hernandez is fouled straight back. We are underway here on this Saturday afternoon. Hernandez at .219 spring average with a home run and a couple driven in.
Well, the Dodgers came out swinging yesterday in the first inning. Hopefully Anthony will be ready for them today and be able to retire them and get out of the inning without giving anything up.
Another pop foul that will reach the seats. You got to be careful before I say a pop foul is going to reach the seats. There are enough things hanging down that are within reach. We saw it last night, hitting cables, and they had speakers, scoreboards. All of those came into play last night with several deflected balls. And those deflections are in play. Just depends on where they come down as to what the disposition of that at bat's going to be. To right field and deep and gone. Well, very much like last night, Dodgers come out, as you mentioned, Tom, swinging the bats. And Kike Hernandez going the other way. A line drive home run to the short porch in right. Dodgers lead 1-0.
Again, that's probably a ball that's not a home run in a regular ballpark, but at the same time it was an 0-2 pitch that he hit with authority. I mean, that's a line shot. That ball's not going to be caught. It might short hop the wall for a double during the regular season, but it's definitely, probably, not definitely, probably, just definitely, period, not where he was trying to throw that 0-2 pitch. Got a good part of the bat on it and hit it hard.
You know, the Dodgers had 5 home runs as a team last night. They had 3 in that first inning, and they start off with their leadoff man, Kike Hernandez, leaving the yard. Justin Turner now takes strike 1. Turner having a great spring. You see those numbers, a home run and 4 driven in. 1 ball and 1 strike. Dodgers for the spring are 9-4 with 4 ties. Kike Hernandez, big smile on his face with his second home run of the spring. To left field, that is going to sink in front of Smolinski. It's down for a base hit. Well, last night, the Dodgers had the first 3 men get aboard and score. Yasiel Puig got a 3-run home run. And he is coming to the plate now with a man at first and still nobody out.
Yeah, I would say at this stage of the game, a couple of batters in, Anthony has not located his fastball exactly where he would want to. A couple of those pitches in pretty good location for the hitter. Turner got a fastball up and out over the plate, and Hernandez on an 0-2 pitch, the same thing.
Puig, who had raised his average about 50 points in last night's ball game. He had been in the 170s, upper 170s, now at 231 with a couple of home runs.
That's a little better.
Get that fastball off the plate inside. Even though it's a ball, it had the proper effect. Got to refocus the hitter's concentration. Keep throwing the ball out over the plate, and it can be a short afternoon for you.
Yeah.
Got another one up and in. 2 balls and no strikes. Puig got straightened up a couple of times last night. Didn't take too kindly to it.
Yeah, it's not like those things are knockdown pitches. Those things are only a couple inches inside.
Yeah. Well, you can see by that shot that Puig's hands almost over the inside corner.
The big hurt. Frank Thomas used to jump out of the way of anything that was an inch or more inside, and I think it worked to his advantage with the umpire. Some of those pitches look pretty good that he's jumping out of the way of, and they were called balls instead of strikes.
I think when Frank Thomas got up there, the whole left side of the infield was blocked off to the umpire anyway. You couldn't see anything around him. 3 balls, no strikes, the count. Turner at first. Nobody out here in the first, and that is ball 4. A 4-pitch walk. There are 2 aboard, and Adrian Gonzalez will be next.
Well, definitely, Anthony Renato went out of his way not to get a fastball out over the plate to Puig. He was trying to get the fastball on the inside corner. Looked like he missed all 4 times, and he ended up walking him, but he did not get the ball out over the plate in the hitter's zone for him to hit. So he's definitely concentrating on that.
Yeah, and some of the times pitching inside has kind of lost a little bit of the meaning to it, I think, Tom. And talked to guys today, and some of the pitchers that you talk to think pitching inside means trying to hit somebody or knock them down.
That's kind of the connotation when you hear it.
And that's not really what pitching inside, at least from my standpoint, is all about.
Definitely not.
Gonzalez takes a pitch at the knees. You know, when you talk about pitching inside, it's for effect. You want to run the ball off the plate to either a right-hander or a left-hander. But then the whole purpose of it is to set up another pitch, probably away. That you get a guy that changes eye level, changes comfort zone, and work to the outside. Runners on the move, and the pitch is chopped foul. But sometimes you see, particularly young pitchers, when you ask them to pitch inside, they will just stay inside, just pitch after pitch after pitch, and that's, you're losing the effect of pitching inside then. You want to make 1 or sometimes 2 pitches off the plate and then go back to your strong suit, hopefully, and that's the pitch on the outer corner. Gonzalez also having a tough spring so far, 161. I don't think there's any great angst about him falling apart. Last year's Silver Slugger Award winner at first base, and the Major League RBI leader, Adrian Gonzalez, with 116 runs knocked in last year.
Yeah, he's knocked in 100 runs in 7 out of 8 years. The only year he didn't knock in 100 runs, he knocked in 99. But he's one of those productive, run-producing, middle-of-the-order guys.
Right back to Renato. To Andrews. An easy turn onto Rosales. You know, that's one way to help your cause. Nice job by Anthony Renato to get a hard-hit comebacker and take his time turning 2 and doing it correctly.
Yeah, fortunately that ball was hit right to his glove side, which made it a relatively easy pickup. His throw was a little bit low, but no problem for Elvis. Elvis had plenty of time. No worry about the runner coming down on him, and Gonzalez not a particularly fast runner, and no trouble getting the ball back to first base to complete the double play.
Well, it was the middleman in that particular double play that time. Now with 2 outs, over at third base is Justin Turner, and Yasmani Grandal, catcher, takes strike 1. He's a switch hitter up there from the left side. Grandal, as you may have heard us mention last night, coming over from the San Diego Padres in that big trade that sent Matt Kemp to San Diego. Dodgers feel like in Grandal they got potential power hitting catcher, young catcher too, that some pretty good tool set. Down to the count here, no balls, 2 strikes.
You have to think that double play just got the weight of the world off Anthony Renato's shoulders.
Yep.
Home run, 2 men on, nobody out. One of the best hitters in baseball at the plate. You end up with 2 outs after that at bat. And finish strong.
A punch out ends things for the Dodgers, so what could have been a very difficult spot, not too bad for Renato. A run on 2 hits, 1 left. After a half inning, 1-0 Dodgers. give Zach Greinke a run with which to work as he takes the mound for the first time here this afternoon. And we'll take a look at the Rangers starting lineup that he will face. Leonis Martin leading off. He's in center. Elvis Andrus is at short. The DH today, Ryan Ledwick, bats third. Joey Gallo, the third baseman, is batting cleanup. In right field, Jared Hoying. Jake Smolinski in left. The second baseman is Rougned Odor. Adam Rosales at first, and the catcher, Chris Jimenez, bats ninth.
Well, the young hitters for the Rangers today will have a treat, getting an opportunity to face one of the best pitchers in baseball, Zach Greinke. Last season, he had 32 starts, another great record, 17-8. That's pretty typical for him. An ERA under 3, pitched over 200 innings. He's a guy throughout his career who has always had a good strikeout to walk ratio, somewhere around 4-1. Last year, it was about 5-1. He's got all the pitches, throws strikes. He's a great fielder, just a good all-around athlete, and he's a winner. Last 4 years, he's been 63-23.
He and Clayton Kershaw team up to make a very formidable 1-2 combination. Matter of fact, that may be as good a 1-2 combination as you're going to find in baseball right now.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Last 4 years, 16-6, 15-5, 15-4, and 17-8 last year. There's a reason why right there. Try and hit that thing.
Boy. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
Yeah, if I'm a hitter watching that at bat, I'm saying, well, I'm looking for a fastball, and as soon as I see one, I'm going to swing at it so I don't have to hit this thing. Look at that changeup.
Well, Leonis Martin gone on strikes. That's how the Ranger first inning gets underway. Now Elvis Andrus. Zach Greinke, a 31-year-old out of Orlando, Florida. Elvis having a great spring, a 500 hitter coming into play here today, 10 for 20. Looking for his first home run. He's driven in 3. And we were talking last night about Elvis reinvigorating his power stroke. Rangers would love to see him start driving balls with a little more authority, especially to left center. Turn on the ball a little bit. He's always been able to hit the ball to right center field. Maybe not with authority all the time, but Elvis getting a little more aggressive with the power stroke. Pretty good swing there, and it's fouled off to the right.
And one thing he's done, and when you watch him from the side, you can notice that his bat is back a little bit farther and just a little bit higher, which I think gives him a better chance to do exactly what you're talking about, drive the ball. It seemed like he got his hands in close to his body and was just pushing the ball toward right field, trying to go the other way and make contact, and it was not solid, hard contact, which he should have the capability of doing with a new swing.
Yeah, and the strikeout has never been a problem for Elvis at any level, really.
No.
So you don't worry about his swing getting so long that it's unmanageable. I don't think he's ever going to have that problem.
I remember when Toby Harrah first came up to the big leagues with the Washington Senators. Nellie Fox was one of the Senator coaches, and he got Toby to use a thick barrel bat. Another off-speed pitch for a strikeout. Got him to use a thick-handled bat and encouraged him to try to hit line drives back through the middle into right field. And Toby hit about 250, might have hit one home run, and he came back the next season. We'll look at the strikeout pitch from Greinke, which looked like a good slider down in a way. And he had a thin-handled bat, and he was holding the bat right down in the bottom of the bat. And Nellie asked him why he'd gone away from what he was trying to do the year before, and he said, I know I can hit 250, and I'm going to at least hit 250 and drive the ball and hit a few home runs. And, of course, Toby became a very good offensive player.
Yeah.
Hit, 20 home runs, go along with a good batting average, a great eye at the plate, a lot of stolen bases. And he was right. He had good hand-eye coordination. He didn't strike out a lot. And for a guy like that, why would you waste the talent he had by trying to hit soft line drives to right field? And I'm not saying that Elvis can do the same things that Toby did, but he should be able to hit for the same average and be able to drive the ball better than he did last year.
Yeah, and you could expect Elvis, I think, the way we're seeing him now, to maybe get double figures in home runs, maybe 10, 12.
I always thought
maybe
that
15.
He would. Yeah, I always thought that he would. It just looked like along the way there were times where you felt like, I won't say power was coming, but the gap power that could lead you to hit 8 to 10 home runs. It hadn't quite happened yet, but a lot of people will say, well, he's played 5 or 6, 7 years, whatever it's been. He is who he is, and I think in some cases that's true, but I don't think it precludes a guy from taking a step higher, becoming a different kind of a hitter.
Well, Zach Greinke makes pretty quick work of the Rangers. 3 up, 3 strikeouts. And Greinke a 1-2-3 first inning. We played one at the Alamo Dome. Dodgers 1, Rangers nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is now available. You can join the millions of subscribers and watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Just visit MLB.TV for details. Second inning here in the Alamo Dome. Trying to get used to watching the clock to the new pace of play rules that have been implemented. We have a clock counting down. There it is out on the scoreboard. There'll be 2 of those in every ballpark this year. They will count down from 2 minutes and 25 seconds for in between innings. And I think it's a good idea.
You know, one of the things they told us, Buzz, at that seminar was too many times the pitcher would be ready to pitch after a half inning, but the hitter would be in the on-deck circle.
Right.
You know, it would take them 10, 15 seconds to get into the batter's box. So I think what they're trying to do is they want, when we come back from commercial and we look down at the field, they want the hitter to be in the batter's box, right? So that they can start the inning.
And the pitcher ready to pitch.
Right.
Within 5 seconds or so is the guideline. And I think it's a very good idea to get guys accustomed to, and you're not asking for a huge change.
No.
Pitch popped up by Guerrero. That is way up there, and coming on, Jared Hoying able to stay with it to make the catch.
I thought as high as that was that it would have to hit something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it did. Maybe it did and came back down at a different angle, but it looked off the bat like that's about where that ball would end up. Hoying's kind of looking up. I think after yesterday, they have a little bit better idea what to expect when the ball goes up. See if we can tell.
You know, and that might have been high enough that it got up above the lights, too, the way they're angled.
Yeah, I thought it would be high enough to go right up those little catwalk type things near the ceiling.
Can you station a guy up there on the catwalk to catch those?
It wouldn't be me.
Yeah, or me. Yeah.
Those guys that rappelled down from the roof.
Yep.
The last couple of days, the Army or Air Force guys, not too thrilled about being up that high.
Yeah, they were right there on those catwalks, and they rappelled down and bring the game ball to the mound at the start of the game. Jock Peterson skies one to center, and Leonis Martin has a bead drawn on it. That's 2 out.
There they go. No, thank you.
Yep, right there with you.
Was it Emily?
Emily got
in Tampa Bay that went up on the top of that thing?
Emily went up the catwalk, and I think it was the the C catwalk, which is the next to the highest one.
Well, we've had that happen. Emily did that down in Tampa Bay. Neither one of us would even dream of doing it. But the one that we definitely wouldn't have dreamed of was Jim Knox in Toronto leaning off the side of that tower.
You know, I saw a clip of that the other day. I was watching Fox Sports Southwest, and they showed a clip of that in something, and it makes my stomach queasy.
Well, the funny thing is, when you talk to Knoxy...
And it wasn't Knox.
He said, I'm petrified of heights, and he still did it. He almost hyperventilated while he was trying to talk.
Down the right side, into the corner. Long run for Hoying, a slide, but can't quite come up with it. Well, Darwin Barney back to home plate. And the count is no balls, 2 strikes. Barney, the number 8 hitter, playing second base today. He got the start at shortstop in last night's game. You can see Hoying kind of hesitate as he looked like he lost the ball, then relocated.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like.
Well, again, the ballpark is not set up for baseball. These are the only games until 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I should say. They didn't play baseball here. It wasn't played at all in this park, and the lighting is set up for football, and it's a whole different lighting configuration. Certainly the height of the dome was not designed to accommodate Major League Baseball or any kind of baseball.
No, so it's the kind of thing that works great for an exhibition, but you couldn't play a season. Yeah.
Right. At the middle into center field. Kind of a seeing eye roller for Barney. So he is aboard with a 2-out single. That'll bring up Zach Greinke.
Well, we've heard that Renato has a very good curveball. He hadn't thrown any up until, at least that I could see, up until that at bat. He threw the pitch before that, was a good hard curveball down and a little bit out of the strike zone. This curveball stays up in the strike zone and allows Barney to get the bat on it. That's a bad feeling for an outfielder when you lose a ball, whether it's in the sun, the lights here. You could lose it in a lot of things up there. And you hesitate and you miss the ball, and 30,000 fans say, how did he miss that thing? It was just a pop-up. He misjudged it. He didn't know what he's doing. And you're standing out there looking in going, I couldn't see that ball. There's nothing I could do about it.
Yep.
Everybody thinks I blew it. And you'd like to have a little megaphone. I did not blow that. I couldn't see it. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hey, you take those flashcards out there where you have the answers written on there. Hold them up. Well, Zach Greinke, the pitcher, is the hitter. And Greinke, a pretty good hitter over the years. A very good athlete, as Tom told you. But his career average is .219, which for a pitcher who doesn't work on hitting all that much, pretty good. Last year, he hit an even .200 with a home run and 3 runs driven in.
No, I like James too. I just can't understand why.
Greinke had a year where he hit .328. You can tell just by his stance.
There you go.
That he probably was a pretty good hitter in high school.
Renato,
that much.
Renato said, thank you very much. We'll take the strikeout. No runs a hit, 1 left. After 1.5, Dodgers 1, Rangers nothing. Your award-winning healthcare team. And by Valero. Drive clean, clean across America. A nice Saturday afternoon crowd here in the Alamo Dome. The Rangers and Dodgers in a more traditional start to this ballgame. Last night it was 8-0 after half an inning of play, and the Ranger fans in attendance didn't have a whole lot to cheer about until the Rangers offense got going. But this afternoon, Dodgers scored 1 in the first, and Anthony Renato did a pretty good job getting a double play to prevent any further damage. So Zach Greinke back to the hill after striking out the first 3 Rangers that he faced.
Yeah, he's a pitcher with obviously he's got great stuff, but he's got probably a solid average to above average fastball, but it's the command of his pitches and the complementary pitches that he has to go along with it. Slider, good curveball, and a great changeup. Also, as a hitter, when he comes to the plate, throws his glove up high out in front of him, and that's a little bit of a distraction to a hitter. You see the glove, your eye focuses on that, and then the ball comes after that, and it's a little bit tough to pick it up, especially if you haven't faced him before. Well, you combine the stuff with the athleticism, the command, everything that goes along with it. And it's pretty much what a pitcher ought to look like right here.
And there's our clock counting down. It's time to play baseball, and everybody's ready.
That's the way it's designed right there.
Joey Gallo leading things off, the cleanup hitter for the Rangers this afternoon. Gallo had 3 strikeouts last night. He got worked over pretty well by the Dodger pitching.
He probably watched the first couple of hitters get fastballs on the first pitch and say, I'm going to take advantage of that. Only Greinke outfoxed him with a changeup.
Tried with the curveball, but left it outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Gallo for the spring. Team leader with those 2 home runs, 6 RBI, and he's hitting at .250. Ouch.
When Greinke first came up to the big leagues, was coming up to the big leagues with Kansas City, he had some anxiety issues, which actually caused him to have to take a little bit of a sabbatical from baseball. He got some help for that, corrected it, came back, but actually had a year in 2005 where he went 5-17 with a .580 ERA. He was only 21 years old at the time. So he had to overcome that early start in the big leagues, and he's overcome it pretty well.
Yeah, I would say so. It also got to the point, Tom, I remember Zach saying he really wasn't sure if he wanted to try to battle that and play baseball at the same time.
Yeah.
So he had to decide whether it was worth it all, worth the hassle. Little tapper, and Gallo is shot down 1-3 on the putout. Now Jared Hoying.
Yeah, I think there were some times, Buzz, where that was the case, where the Royals really didn't know whether he would come back and play baseball. They were concerned for his health, and so was he. But he got the help he needed and came back from it. But it's a good learning experience for fans who will watch a pitcher. He's the 6th pick in the draft, their best prospect. He went 5-17, and his ERA was close to 6. And I think the normal reaction would be, well, looks like we overrated this kid. He can't pitch. But when you're only 21, 22, 23, even 24, 25, there's so much that can happen to improve your performance as time goes on. It's not everybody that blossoms into a star when they're 21 or 22 years old. It just doesn't happen that way.
Here's Jared Hoying getting a start in right field here this afternoon. Hoying, 25-year-old out of Sidney, Ohio. Rolls over on that one in an easy play.
Took that last high hop.
And an easy play turned into a base hit.
He thought it was an easy play, and when he caught it, he realized it, and he fired it to first base, and he was just victimized by a young player that he's never seen before, who gets down the line a lot better than he thought he could. You see him gun the ball, but it was too late. I think had he known how quickly Hoying was going to get down to first base, he would have charged it and not waited back for that last hop.
Well, there's the first Ranger hit. A 2-hopper to second base. You don't see that turned into a hit very often.
But it's a good lesson to a hitter. It's why you bust it out of the box. You never know what can happen. Your first reaction when you hit that ball is exactly what you said. There's a routine ground ball to second, so you go 3/4 speed. You get thrown out by 3 or 4 feet. Instead, he caught the second baseman by surprise, got himself a base hit.
Sure did. The 1-on-1 out, Jake Spolinski, left fielder, a .375 average for the spring. There goes Hoying. Pitch is outside the throw. Ooh, he got it. Pretty good throw by Grandal.
If I was umpiring from up here, I would have said he got his hand in there. That would be one that they'd be looking at for a replay to decide whether they wanted a replay. Let's see. Oh, that's a close one. I don't know. What'd you think?
I think you're right. I think the tag went to the right hand and the left hand got in.
Yeah, I thought he got the left hand in. It might be one that would, during the season, would get replayed. Let's see again. Yeah, he tagged him up near the shoulder. It looked like it was a little bit after the hand got to the bag.
But no replay in use down here.
Nope.
So can't do anything about it. So bases empty, 2 outs. And Smolinski takes a bit low. It's 3 balls and no strikes. Jake with his .375 average, also a home run and 4 driven in. 3-1. Greinke facing Smolinski. Smolinski, a 26-year-old. He's out of Rockford, Illinois. Signed as a free agent before last season. Pops one right down the third baseline. It's a fair ball over the bag, and Turner fielding the ball, looking in disbelief back at the third base umpire.
I was watching the home plate umpire, and as Turner was complaining and the third base umpire ruled fair, the home plate umpire was shaking his head. Yep, that ball was fair. So he agreed with him. Oh, here's the shot.
Get it right down the line.
Boy, that's about as close as you can get right
Sure
there.
is. You're right.
Turner did the right thing because he had no play at first base anyway, so he might as well try to play it and get the call. He didn't get the call, but if he knew that ball was fair, I don't think he would have thrown it anyway.
Well, a couple of infield hits for the Rangers in this inning. A man on with 2 outs, and Rougned Odor, the hitter. 1 ball, no strikes. Rougned enjoying a very solid spring at .409. A home run, 2 driven in. And just as importantly as that, working with Elvis Andrus on a daily basis, getting the opportunity that they did not have last spring. Kind of hone their craft together, get that synergy between the shortstop and second baseman going. How about the last 8 ball games? Taking a page out of Elvis's book down in spring training, and a .500 hitter for Odor. 1-1. Greinke, a check of first. 1-2.
That's some kind of changeup. Trying to see his hand and how he grips it. It almost goes down like a splitter, but I think it's a circle change. I tried to see it come out of his glove, and it looks like that was how he was gripping it.
One thing about changeups, there are probably 1,000 different ways to hold them, and they all work for somebody.
Yeah, I know. It's just a matter of how they grip it.
Yeah.
You try to label them different type of pitch, but basically when it comes in slow like that, it's a changeup.
And that one had Odor out in front. The strikeout is completed at first, and Rangers get a couple of infield hits. Strand a runner. We're going to the 3rd inning. LA 1, Texas nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Folks, mark it down in your calendars. Coming up, the Rangers triple play on Sunday, May 17th. Texas Rangers Baseball Foundation and Park Place dealerships bring you the triple play this year. Always a great time. This year's triple play will have a game show spectacular featuring a lot of your favorite Rangers, a silent auction, and a night of circus-themed fun. You can visit TexasRangers.com/triple play to learn more about how you can support the Rangers Foundation. Chris Jimenez will start things off. Excuse me. Chris Jimenez is behind the plate. He will be catching as Kike Hernandez starts things off for the Dodgers. It's still spring training, right?
It is.
Okay.
It is spring training.
Let me get my eyes working properly. Hernandez began things. He scored the only run of the ball game thus far by aligning a home run to right field. Went the other way with Anthony Renato as they got things underway here this afternoon. So Hernandez now with 2 home runs and 3 RBI for the spring. Renato to the wind, and he gets a ground ball in the hole under Elvis's glove. He can't come up with it. Well, Hernandez aboard for the second time, and we'll see how that scored. I would imagine a base hit being in the hole over there for Elvis. Although he would tell you that's a play he's going to make most of the time.
Yeah, I think he would feel like he was going to make that play. It was not going to be a simple play. We'll get a good look at it here. He has to go and backhand the ball. That's really how he chose to field that ball. He could have fielded it differently, but I think he felt if he backhanded it, he'd be able to get more on the throw. He really didn't have to reach out for it. The ball was actually right near his right foot.
And they're going to charge Elvis with an error. Elvis had a first-inning error last night also.
Yeah, I was thinking base hit till I saw the replay.
Yeah.
Then it looked like a play he should make.
Justin Turner takes a strike. Turner singled to left field in the first. We talked about Turner's season in 2014, 109 games, and maybe the least heralded 340 hitter in baseball.
I got to be honest with you. I didn't even know who he was until I got to spring training.
I agree with you. A guy who was on base better than 40% of the time, and you would think you'd at least heard the name.
I know.
You know, with the Dodgers, though, as many star names as they have, you probably go unnoticed like Justin Turner and put up pretty good numbers, which is what happened.
And let's face it, when we get into the season, we're pretty much focused on the American League West, the American League, and a little bit on our interleague opponents. So without playing the Dodgers, playing on the West Coast, I don't know if I even watched a Dodger game last year.
0-2 pitch. Renato, you remember back in the first inning, got ahead a couple of times 0-2. Kike Hernandez hit an 0-2 pitch the other way for a home run, and then Justin Turner hit a 1-2 pitch into left field for a base hit. So Renato trying to not only get ahead, but then finish off the hitter. That's something that Mike Maddox talks about an awful lot. Is, you know, getting ahead is important, but finishing a guy off is one step further than that. To right field, that's going to be trouble. Small park, big ball, a home run, and the Dodgers lead it 3-0. Boy, Turner, he is turning that ball the other way and gets his second spring home run.
Now, yesterday there was maybe 1 or 2 balls that were hit out of the ballpark on pretty good pitches. One where a hitter just reached out and flicked his bat and the ball went out. Pretty good pitch, you know, say made a good pitch, ballpark got him. On this one, this is not going to be a pretty good pitch. That's basically a hanging breaking ball right down the middle of the plate. Whether or not it would have been a home run in a different ballpark, who knows. He hit it well, but if you're Anthony Renato, I think you say to yourself, I didn't get that ball where I wanted it.
Yep. I would agree with you.
You know, we're talking about not knowing much about Justin Turner. I'll tell you the people that know a lot about Justin Turner. That's the people that play fantasy baseball. I guarantee you there's people watching this game right now going, those guys don't even know who Justin Turner is. And I've been following that guy.
Yeah.
Fantasy sports will make you a fan and make you pretty knowledgeable too, boy. Eric Nadel and Matt Hicks both play fantasy baseball. I love talking to those guys about their fantasy baseball.
Yeah, they are really
teams.
into it.
They are. And they know the players, too. They know them better than we do, especially the National Leaguers, anyway.
You know, pretty good name recognition of the guy at the plate, Yasiel Puig. Whether you're a big-time fan or a casual fan, you've probably heard a lot about Puig. Drew a walk his first time up. Broken bat right back to Renato, and he barehands it. One gone.
Well, who knows what happens this inning if Elvis makes the play off Hernandez to lead off the inning. Now Anthony's pitching with one out, pitching from the windup instead of the stretch, and who knows what the at-bat turns out to be to Turner. But the error did set the stage for the two-run homer, but Renato came back, and maybe he's a little bit off balance, had to reach out with his bare hand. He's got some big old hands to do it with. Last time up, he threw 4 straight pitches inside to Puig. They were off the plate, and he walked. That time he kept pounding them in and tailed it in and got him right off the hand. So good job for him on that at bat.
Adrian Gonzalez now foul tipping that first pitch. Gonzalez grounded into a 1-6-3 double play in the first, and that at the time was a very big play. Dodgers had 2 on with nobody out, and Renato able to get that twin killing to limit the Dodger possibilities, and then went on to strike out Grandal, the next hitter. That into the frame. That's to right field. That is gone in a hurry. Adrian Gonzalez, his first home run of the spring. It's a 4-0 Los Angeles lead. That ball was hit well.
That was a rope. Well, we're going to see the replay of this pitch. And one thing we've seen from Anthony today, he's made a lot of good pitches and had a lot of good at-bats. But when he's made a mistake, for the most part, he hasn't gotten away with it. The 0-2 pitch to Hernandez for a home run, the hanging breaking ball to Turner, and this pitch to Gonzalez. I'm not sure if it was a hanging slide or a changeup. That looks like a changeup right down the middle of the plate that Gonzalez ripped. So it's a case of Anthony having pretty good stuff, making some mistakes, and the Dodgers really capitalizing on the mistakes.
Now Grandal takes strike one. Then went on to strike out Grandal, the next hitter. That into the frame. That's to right field. That is gone in a hurry. Breaking ball down. 1 ball and 1 strike. Another off-speed pitch misses. 2 balls and a strike to Grandal. Grandal, a home run and 4 driven in so far this spring. A 15 home run campaign last year with the San Diego Padres. That's into center field, a base hit. And you're right, Tom. It seems like every time Anthony Renato gets the ball up and on the plate, Dodgers are not missing it.
No, he's given him some pretty good pitches to hit. I don't think quite as sharp as he wants to be with the command of his pitches. And that doesn't mean he's not throwing strikes with them. His problem today has been some of the strikes are too good to hit.
As the pitching coaches would talk about with you, quality strikes are lacking.
Yeah.
When he's gotten hit, and that's part of the problem. Mike Maddox, we mentioned before, talks about not only getting ahead but finishing guys off with quality strikes. And Steve Buechele, being the player that he was too, would recognize that.
If you look at the at-bat right before the home run and the single with Puig, he made a great pitch to Puig.
Down the left field line, but that is going to hook foul. 0-1 the count to Alex Guerrero. Guerrero having a very solid spring. Came in hitting at .385. It's a couple of home runs, 7 driven in. Good campaign last year at AAA Albuquerque. .329 average. Hitting here with Grandal at first base in the third inning. Dodgers now 4 runs on 6 hits. Rangers being shut out on just a couple of hits. Through the first 2 times to the plate, Zach Greinke handling the pitching chores for the Dodgers. 2-1. I guess if there's been a theme, Tom, in the first game last night and what we've seen here this afternoon is the younger pitchers having a pitch count get up in an inning and all of a sudden not being able to conquer that, not being able to get a big out when you needed it. The double play ground ball in the first inning, that was after the horse was already out of the barn for a run. And that's pretty typical, I think, in spring training. You start pressing a little bit to try and get that big out or the final out, and all of a sudden pitches get up and difficult to counteract that.
Yeah, and they're pitching under a lot of pressure. They're pitching against a pretty good lineup. They've got some pretty good players in their lineup, some good hitters in a park that's not great for a pitcher. At a time of the spring where you're competing for a job, there's a lot on the line. These are not comfortable outings where you're just getting your work in to get ready for the season. The young pitchers, they know it every time they go out there. I have to be my best today to stay in the mix, to make a spot for myself in the rotation or in the bullpen for the Rangers this year. Well, these are mid-season games for the young pitchers.
Big 6'7" Anthony Renato peering in for the sign. He's ready to go. The left field and deep down the line, and that will hook foul. About 20-25 feet foul off the bat of Alex Guerrero. We'll come back and try it again. And Chris Jimenez is going to go out and say something to Renato. Anthony Renato not really interested in having a conversation about that. Mike Maddox keeping copious notes, as he always does, on guys' outings. Well, we'll try another 2-2 pitch to Guerrero. Dodgers with 5 home runs in last night's ballgame. They've hit 3 here this afternoon. 8 in the 2 games. And this one popped up. That is playable, assuming it doesn't hit that scoreboard, and it didn't. Rougned Odor handles that pop-up. 2 gone. Jock Peterson will be next. Rangers playing their 3rd spring game against the Dodgers. They have gone 0-1 with 1 tie in the first 3 meetings, or first 2 meetings, I should say. Rangers and Dodgers will hook up 4 times this coming June. 2 in Arlington, and that followed immediately by 2 at Dodger Stadium. One ball, no strikes to Peterson. Renato sneaking up on the 55 pitch level, and he misses low and outside. Again, the split squad, the Rangers' other half, played yesterday in Surprise, or in Peoria, I guess it was, against Seattle. Tied that ball game. And also playing today back at home.
Yeah, some good things going on back in Surprise. Derek Holland pitched 3 solid innings, it sounded like. Mitch Moreland hit another home run.
And ball 4. 4-pitch walk puts Peterson aboard. 2 on with 2 out for Darwin Barney. Second walk of the afternoon for Renato. Yeah, Mike Maddox, a slow walk out there. Nobody in the bullpen. So this a visit just to give Anthony Renato a little teaching moment.
You know, Buzz, I was watching him from up here down in the bullpen before the game. Never seen him pitch. And I watched maybe 5 or 6 pitches. And every single pitch he threw was either slightly below the knees or right at the knees. And now you're on the mound and your heart's pumping and your adrenaline's flowing and it's kind of coming up 6 or 8 inches, and most of them are, you know, between the middle of the thighs or belt high and out over the plate. It's not the location. I don't think that he's trying to hit.
No, I guarantee you.
I'm sure. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not.
That's that.
Unless you're Nolan Ryan throwing 100 miles an hour,
right?
That's not an area you're going to have a whole lot of success in.
Yeah, that's that whole thing about the harder you try, the worse it gets.
Yeah,
you got to find a way to try easy, using your good stuff. No conference concluded. Darwin Barney at the plate had a base hit to center his first time. Takes a well-located strike there. 0-1.
I don't get that.
Barney, a former Chicago Cub, had a Gold Glove year in 2012 with Chicago. That's out of play. Jesus Perella is loosening in the Ranger bullpen now. This about the time of spring for Anthony Renato. He'd be looking at maybe a 65 pitch limit, somewhere in that area. He's sneaking up on 60 right now. Up the middle, but right at Odor, and the force play is taken care of at second base. Side retired, but the Dodgers scored 3 times, a couple of home runs and an error figuring into play. After 2.5, it is 4-0 Los Angeles. A nice crowd on hand here this afternoon. Looks to be, in the neighborhood of 30,000. A little over 20,000 last night, so looking at eclipsing last year's mark. This is the third big league weekend that has been sponsored by HEB down here in San Antonio, the Alamo Dome. First year, able to draw 75,000 to the ball games. A nice crowd out here today, and enjoying so far pretty good pitching by Zach Greinke for the Dodgers. He goes to work to Adam Rosales and fires strike 1 to start off the third. Rosales, Jimenez, and Martin. First 3 due up for the Rangers. Adam, 167 spring average, no home runs, and an RBI.
And that's what I'm telling Bob.
Ball and a strike. Talking about the other half of the Rangers split squad back in surprise this afternoon against the Milwaukee Brewers. Colby Lewis getting the start in that ball game. Boy, Colby's done an excellent job coming back after a tough first outing. The last couple have really been outstanding.
Backyard.
Hard hit up the middle, a base hit. Adam Rosales, a well struck line drive for a leadoff single. Now Chris Jimenez. Third hit for the Rangers today, and the first one that's left the infield.
Well, you can see that even Zach Greinke, when it gets a fastball straightened out over the plate, can pay for it.
One on, nobody out. Rosales being held at first by Adrian Gonzalez. Chris Jimenez, just a 133 spring mark with a couple of RBI. Takes that breaking ball for strike one. That's in the dirt. Grandal doing a nice job of blocking that pitch. A ball and a strike. Chris Jimenez, you would figure, would be the everyday catcher at AAA to start things off. It looks like Robinson Chirinos and Carlos Corcoran, barring any kind of an injury problem, would be the two catchers that the Rangers would probably take north with them, or north and west. 1-2. At least that would be the grand scheme of things right now. And Chris Jimenez, of course, a lot of experience with Ranger pitching from last year with the ball club. Would certainly be a guy that would be ready in case anything would necessitate another catcher.
Well, we've seen lots of opportunities for catchers over the years. Certainly Robinson Chirinos took advantage of his opportunity last year. He didn't figure in, at least at the start of the season, to be a key factor in the catching department for the Rangers. Turned out that he was, and made a pretty good name for himself to the point where he's a starting catcher going into this season. So hard work, determination, anything can happen.
Double play ground ball turned by the Dodgers. 6-4-3. Rosales erased. There are two gone now with the bases empty. And Leonis Martin coming up. Second double play of the ball game. Dodgers turning one, and Rangers had one earlier.
So the ability to walk.
Leonis Martin with his second at bat of the afternoon fouls off that first pitch. No balls and a strike. Leonis, a strikeout victim back in the first. See the numbers that Leonis put up last year, hitting .274, and Jeff Bannister has already said that Leonis Martin is going to be his leadoff man every day. Likes him in that leadoff spot. He likes what he can do, and add a little bit of power to the top of the order at times. Certainly a stolen base threat. The one thing I think Leonis is probably going to have to show is that he can be patient enough on a consistent basis to hit leadoff.
Yeah, you'd like to see a decent on-base percentage. And it's important for him. He wants to do it. It's important for the team. They need him to do it. There's not a lot of alternatives, not a lot of other ways to put the lineup together and really make it work. With him leading off, it seems to come into focus a lot better. Everybody falls into place in their particular spot in the lineup.
Yeah, and you kind of stretch that lineup out a little bit, too. You allow Shin-Soo Choo to hit down on the order further, maybe in a run-producing spot. And that makes the middle of the order just one guy stronger.
Yeah.
I think that's really important for the club.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Chu's a good leadoff hitter, but he's a guy that, if he's healthy, has the potential to hit 15 or 20 home runs. And the middle of the lineup, if guys are getting on base, he could be a nice, productive, middle-of-the-order guy for you.
Yeah, Leonys Martin has shown the ability in spurts when he's had the opportunity to be patient, to get on base at a fairly high clip. Payoff pitch here from Greinke. Outside, ball 4. There's a pretty well worked walk by Leonys Martin against Zach Greinke.
Yeah, if you go back 3, 4, 5 years on certain Ranger teams, if Chu was on those teams, then there's no doubt he would have been your leadoff hitter.
Right.
But if you look at the makeup of the team right now, you've got to have some players hitting in the middle of the lineup that can produce some runs. And Chu is the kind of hitter that's suited. He could hit anywhere in the lineup. 1 through 9, you'd have a good guy in the lineup. Right now, the lineup seems more suited with him somewhere other than a leadoff hitter. No, he can do that if he had to. Someone's got to drive in the runs.
Elvis Andrus in the middle of that 3-strikeout first inning, as Leonys Martin found out Zach Greinke's got a pretty good move.
He's got a quick move, boy.
And that's part of that athleticism you're talking about, Tom, about Zach Greinke. Good quick feet. And short snap throw. One ball and no strikes to Elvis. Leonys stepping that lead off at first.
Almost an hour.
Ball 2.
And just like we're talking about Leonys needing to do some things to lead off, be patient, get on base. You could say the same thing for Elvis, batting in the second spot.
Throw to second is in time to get the sliding Leonys Martin. Twice now. Yes, Monty Groundalis shot down a Ranger trying to swipe second. Hoying in the second. Now Martin here in the third. Rangers gone on a hit. Nobody left after 3. 4-0 Dodgers. Been just super for this big league weekend.
Thank you for bringing us some rain. We need it around here. I don't know what, that's why we held this indoors. No, we're so glad to see you guys again. That means you're in San Antonio, a place that, of course, we're so happy to have the Rangers here and have this ball game here at the Alamo Dome.
And what does this experience mean to San Antonio, for the city of San Antonio?
We love our sports here. We have an NBA team. Right. It's pretty good. So we do like a little bit of sports there. But I tell you what, baseball in this community means everything. I mean, it's something that's so important to us. And they love the Rangers here. Little Rangers Astros contra temps going on sometimes around here. But no, they do. We love sports. Next week, the Valero Texas Open coming in. Phil Mickelson. We got the FedEx Cup leader and Jimmy Walker, who lives here in San Antonio. That's coming up. But I tell you what, we talked about this last year. About this time of year, you helped me introduce Fiesta here in San Antonio. We celebrate everything, our people, our heritage, everything, April 16th through the 26th. And anytime you guys want to come, you guys, of course, know somebody who might be able to help you out on the tourism front.
Well, we'll get your card before
we got all kinds of stuff. But visit sanantonio.com. We have our calendar. We have all kinds of, we have a thing called the SAVE program, San Antonio Vacation Experience, $1,600 or more worth of discounts for all kinds of things. San Antonio, we love the Rangers, and we love Rangers fans. Come on in and come visit us anytime.
Well, we appreciate it. And the hospitality, as we said, it cannot be any better than what they certainly do for us. And it's been great. Richard, thanks very much. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. We're so glad you guys are here.
We look forward to coming every year. All right, Richard Oliver joining us today. Oh, thank you. Anthony Renato back out for the fourth inning. And Zach Greinke, the pitcher, leading things off 4-0 in favor of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Greinke struck out the first time that he faced Renato. And in case you missed it, why you ask why in the world is the pitcher hitting? Elvis scrambling, throwing, and he got him. Zach Greinke is going to file a grievance with the Players Association, the Pitchers Union. You can't take a base hit away from a pitcher when you hit the ball hard, for Pete's sake.
Well, Buzz, when you see that play and you go back to the one that we contemplated hit or error early in the game, it's definitely an error, the first one.
Yeah.
Because if he can make this play, you know he could have made the last play. There's Elvis's arm at its best right there. And, Greinke's not going to try to sprint and pull a hamstring or anything right before the season like this, but I don't think he thought he had to run very hard to beat that ball out either.
Well, Elvis, that I would say midseason form, but I think there's something even a little bit better in Elvis's form this year than we're going to see about midseason, but that was a pretty good preview. Back to the top of the order, Kike Hernandez, who has been aboard and scored both times today. Lines one to left, but right at Smolinski. 2 gone.
Well, you'd love to see a quick finish here to the fourth inning. Anthony struggled a little bit in the last inning. Love to see him finish strong. Get out of this inning 1-2-3.
Well, Renato set down the first 2 Dodgers he faced in the second also, and was not able to finish off a 1-2-3 inning, but has another opportunity here. Justin Turner, a 2-run home run and a single, 2 for 2. That huge leg kick, and he takes ball 1. I don't know how guys ever get the timing of that.
I don't either. Not lifting it that high. You see a little bit less of that now than you used to see when Ruben Sierra and the guys were all featuring that. Juan Gonzalez.
With the degree of popularity depends on the degree of success the guys have that you're watching. Behind the bag at third, and Gallo uncorks the throw. There's your 1-2-3 inning. 3 up, 3 down for the Dodgers, and Renato finishes off the fourth. After 3.5, it's the Dodgers 4, the Rangers 0. concert of the season that takes place on Saturday, May 2nd, following the game between the Rangers and A's. And come on out to Globe Life Park in Arlington and see Tracy Lawrence, presented by Budweiser. Tickets and passes to watch the show from the field are available at TexasRangers.com/concerts. Elvis Andrus
Oh, nice.
going after the first pitch, drives one to left center field. Over to make the grab is Guerrero. That is out number one. So Elvis, who was at the plate when Leonis Martin was shot down trying to steal in the third, lines out to start the fourth for the Rangers.
Yeah, to me, that was actually better than it looked, because Elvis, he didn't hit that ball that hard, but he hit it off the end of the bat. He actually got the head of the bat out there, was just a little bit out in front of it. Timed that just a little better with the same swing to left field and the same trajectory, and that is a ball that he would have driven to left field, maybe over the left fielder's head.
And Ludwig takes a strike. And it goes back, I guess, to what you were talking about, Tom, about when you are analyzing how well guys are doing in the spring, it's not always the numbers that jump out at you.
No, yeah, that's one where you can go back and say, I just missed it. I didn't really connect on it, but I had a good swing. I had a good approach. It's what I'm working on. And if you're going to go for one, go for one here in San Antonio. Save the hits for the season. But, I don't think the average fan might see a huge difference in Elvis, but I think there's a subtle difference in his stance and his swing. And who knows? Sometimes you get into the season, you revert back to your old form because it's more comfortable. But I think if that's something Elvis stays with, he could see some good results.
And I know it's a small sample, but what I've seen Elvis in a couple of games that I've seen him now in the spring is that he's much more aggressive earlier in the count. And that's something I didn't think that. I thought he got kind of away from that maybe last year, a little tentative, a little. This year, boy, he's not holding anything back. Going up there looking for a pitch, and he's letting it fly.
I think when you go to the plate and you're not at a high level confidence-wise, and you're hitting soft line drives to right field, you don't go up there saying, man, I can't wait to take a swing. But on the other hand, when you're feeling good, you like your stance, you like the way you're swinging, the ball seems to be jumping off your bat, you feel like going up there and give it a rip.
If you feel like you're hitting the ball with a wet newspaper, you're not going to be real anxious to get it in play that way. Well, two gone. Ludwig struck out for the second time this afternoon. That's 5 strikeouts now for Greinke, and he faces Joey Gallo.
I think it was maybe Dave Magadan that said it, that there's a lot more in Elvis than what we've seen. And if it wasn't him, someone else said it. Whoever said it, I agree with him. I've always felt that there's more there. Not that what we've seen is terrible. He's anchored a shortstop for a World Series team, been to an All-Star game. But he's very talented and still very young. And there's still, obviously, for any player, room for improvement.
Yeah, I don't think you'd classify a 26-year-old as over the hill yet.
No. But, I don't always buy that because he's played for 6 years that he is who he is, and that's all you're ever going to see. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Well, I think especially, Tom, when you have a guy like Adrian Beltre playing next to you, I don't think Beltre will let anybody on his teammate, especially a guy like Elvis, settle for something that's not quite good enough.
No.
Or not quite as good as it should be. 1-2 to Gallo. Well, Greinke strikes out the last 2 in the 4th inning, a 1-2-3 frame. We finished 4 in San Antonio. Dodgers 4, Rangers nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. This afternoon after 4. It's 4-0. And we head to the top of the 5th inning. A new pitcher on the hill for the Texas Rangers. And it's right-hander Luis Alberto Bonilla.
Well, Luis Alberto got a taste of the big leagues last year. 5 games. He had 3 starts, and he acquitted himself very well. 20 innings. He walked a few. 12 walks in 20 innings. Not exactly what he'd want, but pretty good strikeout totals. Good opponent's batting average. And he showed some pretty good poise on the mound for a youngster last year. Let's see if he can come up with a good outing today.
Luis Alberto, a 24-year-old out of the Dominican Republic, came over to the Rangers a couple of years ago in that trade that sent Michael Young to the Phillies. And Luis Alberto Bonilla came over with Josh Lindblom in that trade. So, ready to go to work. Yasiel Puig, the right fielder, takes strike 1. Bonilla getting his first opportunity at the big league level last year. Went 3-0 with the Rangers in 5 ball games. 3 of those were starts. Puig to deep left field. If that's fair, that's out of here. It is foul. Foul, and not by much. I think Bonilla and the Rangers will take that.
Yeah, it's impossible from here to tell what's going to be fair or foul down the line. Off the bat, it's uh-oh. But fortunately, it hooked right at the end and just went foul.
The third base umpire, Lance Barrett, had the call there, and he was very emphatic about that foul call. This time he gets fisted. Quick off-balance throw by Joey Gallo for the out.
At his last at bat, Anthony Renato did a great job jamming him. Got ball in on him, and on that particular ball, the same thing happened. Bonilla runs this fastball right in off the fist. So a guy that got the bat head out and pulled a home run foul got jammed a little dribbler to third base. Good comeback right there by Luis Alberto.
So Bonilla with the first out, now facing Adrian Gonzalez, who homered his last trip. Rangers will put on the infield shift. Everybody moving to the right side of second with the exception of Joey Gallo. And there's a drive. That's gone, too. Not much a shift can do for that unless you shift somebody up in the second deck.
Well, you talk about turning on the first fastball you've seen from a guy. That's why he's a perennial 100 RBI guy, one of the best hitters in the National League. That's a home run anywhere. I don't care if it's hitting this ballpark or Yellowstone. That's a fastball up and down the middle of the plate, and he was ready for it. He smoked that ball.
It's an experienced hitter picking on a less experienced pitcher.
Yeah.
With pretty good success, too. Well, Gonzalez, 2 home runs in this game, the first 2 of the spring. Dodgers now with 4 home runs today after 5 of them last night. Adrian Gonzalez, 116 RBI to lead Major League Baseball last year. Looks like he's getting himself ready to defend that RBI title again in 2015. As Monty Grandal, 1 for 2.
In last night's game, in the big first inning that the Dodgers had, Gonzalez made 2 outs. And today in the first inning, he hit into a double play after a home run, single, and walk. So he said, I've had enough of that. Last 2 at bats, he's gone deep.
Two balls and a strike to Grandal. Singled his last time up, struck out in the first inning. Tried to check his swing and couldn't. 2-2. Got him swinging. Good job by Luis Alberto Bonilla to come back after the Gonzalez home run and make some quality pitches to Grandal. First strikeout for the right-hander. 2 gone, and Alex Guerrero coming up.
Good movement on that pitch. You can see it right at the end, tailing away from Grandal.
Guerrero 0 for 2 today. His fly to right, pop to second.
And Guerrero's a fairly highly touted Cuban player. The Dodgers signed him to a $28 million contract spread over 4 years. Spent most of the season last year in AAA ball. But when you get $28 million for 4 years, they're not looking for a minor league player. They're looking for a big league player. I don't know where he's going to get an opportunity to play with the Dodgers. But he's got a pretty good bat.
Well, the Dodgers trading away Matt Kemp tried to unjam the outfield log jam that they have. They still have Carl Crawford and Andre Ethier, and looks like Jock Peterson's got a chance at center field, and Yasiel Puig.
Yeah.
You know, you've got this guy Gonzalez. Guerrero. You need to find a spot for.
Yeah.
It's still a pretty good jam in the outfield. Foul ball just outside of third, and the count remains 0-2. About the Dodgers in the offseason, before the trade of Kemp, there was a lot of speculation about Ethier being the odd man out, and that still may be the case.
Yeah, if he's not going to start making whatever he's making, $14 million. That's a high-priced extra man. But you know, the Dodgers have so much money to spend. Evidently, I guess it doesn't even matter to them. I think any other team would be doing whatever they could to trade Ethier or someone else. And maybe the Dodgers are, to try to create a little bit of opportunity and to save some money.
Yeah, Bonilla gets a couple of strikeouts after the Adrian Gonzalez home run. The Dodgers a run on a hit. We played half the ball game. It's the Dodgers 5, Rangers 0 on Fox Sports Southwest. Up for an early season savings at Globe Life Park. Just enter Dr. Pepper as your coupon code at TexasRangers.com/specials. Or you can bring any Dr. Pepper can to the ballpark for savings of at least 25% on most Sunday through Thursday home games. Offer is good from April through July. Well, a 5-0 Dodger lead as the Rangers getting set to come to bat, and Juan Nicasio has come out of the Dodger bullpen to take over for Zach Greinke.
And Nicasio came over to the Dodgers from Colorado. He'd been a starting pitcher almost all of his career. He had 14 starts last year with Colorado. They tried to work him in the bullpen a little bit. He had 19 relief appearances. I would have not know whether he's trying to create a starting spot for himself or a relief spot for himself. I think he's going to do a little bit of extra work down in the bullpen.
Yeah, Don't worry, he's not warming up to come back in.
Well, the Ranger hitters are glad to hear that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
4 innings, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts.
Greinke getting his pitch count up to where it needs to be to stretch that arm out, get him set for early season in Los Angeles. Jared Hoying fouling the pitch off. It's 1 ball and 1 strike now as he faces Nicasio. Hoying, an infield single. He had a 2-hopper right to the second baseman, Barney, and beat out the throw. Most surprised person in the Alamo Dome was Darwin Barney. Hoying now down to the count at 1-2. Starting to get some changes for both teams now as we head into that time of the ball game. We'll catch you up on those as time permits. Hoying very quietly putting together an impressive spring, an impressive last year, and Steve Buechele had Hoying, and he said, "Hey, this young man can play." Said he's no secret to anybody in the Ranger organization, although outside the organization he may be a little bit of an unknown quantity.
Yeah, looking at his stats from last year, he led the American Association, or the Pacific Coast League, I guess, in total bases. Stole 20 bases. But you're right, Buzz, he can do some things.
Nicasio's 2-2. Full count.
He is so messy.
And Jared Hoying trying to get aboard here to start off the Ranger 5th. Jake Smolinski, the left fielder, waits in the on-deck circle. We'll try it again after the foul ball. Payoff pitch. Got him swinging. Nicasio, some nasty things down and in, and Hoying gone on strikes. Well, Greinke had struck out 6 in his 4 innings of work. Now Nicasio strikes out the first hitter he faces here in the 5th inning.
We saw a lot of fastballs and then couldn't lay off that hard breaking ball down and in.
One gone for Jake Smolinski, who had the infield single his first time, as Greinke continues to get some work down there. High breaking ball that catches the uppers, reaches the strike zone. It is 0-1. Remember Jake last year, he burst on the scene for the Rangers and really went to work, that .349 average. And I would have loved to have seen what he was able to do his first go around at the big league level had he not gotten injured.
Yeah, he had a lot of at-bats left when that happened, too, when he hurt his foot. I would, too. He might have ended up with a couple of hundred at-bats, whatever it would have been.
Out of play to the right side.
He just had good at-bat after good at-bat, game after game. Kept waiting for him to take a little step backwards. And it might have come at some point in time. But it never did while he was there, as long as he was healthy. He was a high draft choice back in 2007. He was a second-round pick by Washington.
And he has gone on strikes as Nicasio picks up right where Greinke left off. That's 4 consecutive strikeouts now between the two of them. 2 gone here in the 5th. Rougned Odor to be next.
That was the same hard breaking ball that Jared Hoying missed. It was down and into him, down and away to Jake Smolinski. Same hard pitch, tough to lay off of, evidently.
Odor 0 for 1 with a strikeout. He goes after the first pitch and pops it back out of play. It is 0-1. Saw Josh McElwee loosening in the Ranger bullpen. Odor, the 21-year-old. Seems like an old man now at 21. He's packed a lot of mileage in the first year. Less than a year at the big league level. He has burst upon the scene. He did it last May, and boy, he just hasn't missed a beat.
Well, there's a limited amount of 20-year-olds that could do in the big leagues what he did last year.
It's amazing. You see a guy like him and the man he replaced, Jurickson Profar. Profar, with the hype, is the best prospect supposedly in all of Major League Baseball. You didn't hear much about Rougned Odor, and all of a sudden Odor is the apparent second baseman for as long as you want to look in the Ranger future.
Yeah, it shows you the kind of depth that the Rangers have built up in their farm system.
Right.
That you can have lose one guy and pick up another guy that's every bit as good.
Odor, a .259 average in his rookie campaign. Takes that pitch a little bit high. It's 2-2.
Picasso didn't like the way he took that pitch, I guess. Yelled something into him. Odor yelled right back to him.
Call strike 3. Got the outside corner. And a shouting match, and Nicasio saying something to Odor, and Rougned not going anywhere.
Go sit in a dugout. He took a pitch and stepped back, and Nicasio took it. It's pretty bad when you take exception to the way a hitter takes a pitch. It's one thing if he takes a big swing, hits a home run, says something to you.
Yeah, 3 straight strikeouts. We'll go to the 6th inning. 5-0 Dodgers. Rangers have some catching up to do. At first, they're going to rely on Luis Alberto Bonilla. Throw another 0 up on the board for the Dodgers here in the 6th inning. They'll be facing the bottom third of the batting order for Los Angeles. Luis Alberto gave up the long home run to Adrian Gonzalez in the 5th inning. Had a couple of strikeouts, so now he will face Jock Peterson, the center fielder, to start things off here in the 6th. Nothing like a little spring training fireworks.
I don't think I've ever seen a confrontation because a guy took a pitch and the pitcher didn't like the way he took a pitch. Rougned took the pitch and then didn't take his eyes off the pitcher, so they had a little stare down, but I don't think it really required any kind of banter back and forth.
Apparently Nicasio took exception to it.
Yeah, you can't take a pitch like that and look at me.
1-1 now, the count to Peterson. Jock Peterson 0 for 1. He has walked and flied to center field. Peterson out of the Northern California city of Santa Clara. Off the end of the bat. On the run off. Wide throw by Gallo. And Peterson will be aboard. Joey trying to throw that on the run and might have had time to set himself and throw hard. That's a hard decision to make. But he chose to throw with his body going away from first and couldn't get the accuracy.
Yeah, tough play when a left-hand hitter kind of cues that ball down the third baseline. Feels like he's going to have to get rid of it quickly. Peterson runs pretty well. Looks like an infield hit, but have we heard?
Have not heard yet.
I'm going with infield hit.
Okay. Darwin Barney now, as Peterson is off and running, and there will be no throw by Chris Jimenez. But no sense wasting the arm power on that.
Yeah, by the time he stood up to throw it, Peterson was 3/4 of the way to second base.
And that play, by the way, ruled a base hit for Peterson. So the official scorer was listening to you.
Good.
In the same wavelength. 2 balls, no strikes now, the count to Barney. Barney is singled and grounded into a fielder's choice. Dodgers 5 runs on 8 hits. Rangers no runs on 3 hits today. 3-0. Well, the pitcher spot is due next. I assume they're not going to put a DH into effect. It's hard for us to tell from our vantage point. We don't have a view of either the on-deck circle or the Dodger bench. Remember, Zach Greinke was hitting in the number 9 slot today because he wanted to get his game action face on for hitting. Up the middle, diving stop by Lucas. He knocks it down, has no play. But he probably prevented a run if that ball goes through to center field. So stopping at third is Peterson. The Dodgers runners at the corners and nobody out here in the 6th. And Dodgers gonna make a change as Darnell Sweeney goes in as a pinch runner for Darwin Barney.
I think this is Kyle Jensen hitting in the pitcher spot in the lineup.
Yes, it is. You're right. Jensen had gone in defensively last inning to play first base. Runners at first and third. Peterson, the runner at first. Darnell Sweeney at third. Kyle Jensen with his first at bat of the afternoon. Last year at AAA, 27 home runs at New Orleans for Kyle Jensen. Luis Alberto Bonilla. It's a big swing and a miss to make it 2-1. Ranger defensive alignment pretty much straight away. Infield in a double play depth. Lucas and Spivey up the middle now. Replacing Andrews and Odor. There goes Sweeney, and the pitch fouled away to the right. Now Sweeney will retrace his steps, and we'll try it on a 2-2 count. Jensen facing Luis Alberto Bonilla. The 24-year-old right-hander has the sign he wants. Check swing. Did he go around? No, he did not. He appealed down to the first base umpire, Greg Gibson, who had the palms down. No swing sign. Well, it's a full count now with nobody out. And you would think that Darnell Sweeney would probably be moving. It seems like the Dodgers want to run at every opportunity. Luis Alberto popping one over there just to say, I'm thinking about you. Now Bonilla ready. Payoff pitch. There goes Sweeney. The pitch is low, ball 4. The walk will load him up for the top of the order. We'll go back to the little heated exchange, at least on the surface of this is what caused Juan Nicasio to get upset.
Now watch Odor take the pitch, and he keeps looking at the pitcher. The pitcher keeps looking at Odor, says something. Odor says something. And then when Nicasio struck him out, they both had a few more words to say. Now let me ask you this, Buzz. You're fairly old school, like the pitch in kind of guy. If a guy took a pitch and looked at you like that, would that strike you the right way? Would you notice? Would you say anything? How would you react to that?
No, I probably wouldn't notice. I don't think I looked at guys that, what they looked like facially after they took a pitch.
Yeah.
Now, if a guy swung and fell down after he swung and didn't put the ball in play,
and then slammed his bat down like I just missed it.
Yeah, I might get a little upset about that.
Yeah.
It might change my pitch selection for the next one. Here's Kiki Fernandez. Double play ground ball to short. Lucas turns it over to Spivey. They get the double play. In to score is Jock Peterson. The double play makes 2 big outs here in the 6th. It's now a 6-0 Los Angeles advantage.
Third baseman,
Second Ranger double play of the afternoon.
A good sinker right where you want it. Down a little bit below the knees. You get the ground ball, and the Rangers turn it for you. You take that with the bases loaded and nobody out. Give up a run to get a couple outs right there.
So Sweeney now at third base. Buck Britton is the hitter, getting his first at bat of the afternoon. Went in defensively an inning ago. That pitch gets away from Jimenez, but not far enough to allow Sweeney to try and score.
That was not an easy one to block. That bounced way out in front of the plate.
Looked like they got a piece of the bare hand of Chris Jimenez, too.
Might have.
Buck Britton, the younger brother of Baltimore Oriole closer Zach Britton from the Weatherford area. Rosales, an overhand toss to Bonilla, and that will do it. So what looked like maybe had been a lot of trouble ends up being 1 run and 1 run only for the Dodgers after 5.5. The Dodgers 6, Rangers nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Well, Dodgers shutting out the Rangers thus far, 6-0 as the Rangers come to bat here in the bottom of the 6th inning. And Juan Nicasio back out to the hill. Ranger fans in attendance here this afternoon, and they're looking for a little offense to get going. So far, the combination of Greinke and Nicasio have shut the Rangers down on just 3 hits. They have also had 9 strikeouts in the first 5 innings between the two of them. Nicasio, who, as Tom has told you, has been around a little bit, knows what he's doing out there, but apparently doesn't like facial expressions. So
he does not want you to stare at him after you take a pitch. Right. Put your head down and slink away.
Adam Rosales to lead things off in the Rangers 6th inning. Rosales had a solid base hit to center field, leading off the 3rd. He was erased, however, immediately on a double play ground ball. And first ball swinging is popped up toward the scoreboard, but it gets through everything, and Darnell Sweeney, the new second baseman, makes the catch for out number 1. I don't know whether that's the exception to the rule or whether that's the rule, and we just saw a couple of exceptions last night about a ball going up hitting something. We had 3 deflected balls last night, from a catwalk or a speaker or a auxiliary scoreboard, whatever. Balls deflecting in play. Seen a few that had the opportunity this afternoon and didn't do anything. Chris Jimenez grounded into that double play that we talked about in the 3rd inning. Takes strike 1. Lifted in the air, foul, and that will. Did we get a deflection? Yeah, we did. We got a deflection that time.
I was looking up in the stands for it.
Jensen was over there. He was looking for it too. Jensen saw it go up, and he's looking up now to see where in the world that ball went.
Well, there's the answer to your question. I think it's more the rule than the exception.
I think you're right.
I'd be surprised if you saw a game where it didn't happen at least once. It's just a little bit too low everywhere.
A ball and 2 strikes to Jimenez. Now 2-2. Saw the numbers for Chris last year at .262 with the Rangers. He ended up with Cleveland to finish the year out. Played 8 ball games with the Indians. And that pitch chopped foul at the plate. For Jimenez, that was his 2nd tour of duty with Cleveland. He originally made his major league debut with them back in 2009. Also spent some time with Seattle and Tampa Bay. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes. Chris went to high school in Gilroy, California, in the Central Valley. '19th round pick by the Cleveland Indians. He's gone on strikes here. Nicasio really showing a solid slider this afternoon. When he gets that thing down, it almost impossible for left-handers or right-handers to lay off it and make contact.
Yep, equally effective today. Well, Greinke had 6 strikeouts in 4 innings. Nicasio's doing a pretty good job himself. He's got 4 in an inning and 2/3.
Yeah. Now Delino DeShields getting an opportunity to have an at-bat here, taking the place of Leonis Martin. And he shoots one to the hole. Oh, what a play in the hole by Hernandez.
That wasn't even close.
All in one motion, coming up, firing. And the speedy Delino DeShields is shot down. Rangers gone in order. After 6 complete, Dodgers 6, Rangers nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Well, fans, tickets for groups of 20 or more start at only $11 and offer savings of nearly 50%. Group pricing is available in 9 different seating areas, plus the all-inclusive and newly renovated Cholula all-you-can-eat seats. Learn more about the group savings offered for every Rangers game at TexasRangers.com/groups. Now, a lot of changes for the Rangers as we head to the 7th inning. Luis Alberto Bonilla out for his 3rd inning of work, and he fires a knee-high strike. Jeremy Hazelbaker pops that one into center field, so he has a leadoff single. That is the 10th base hit now for the Los Angeles Dodgers here today. And their leadoff man aboard for each of the last 2 innings now against Bonilla. Matt Carson hitting an Adrian Gonzalez spot. Carson, .259 last year with Columbus. That pitch all the way to the backstop. And down to second goes Hazelbaker. A wild pitch by Bonilla. And a new catcher working with Bonilla. That's David Lyon. And behind the plate now. One ball and 1 strike. Here's our new receiver for Luis Alberto Bonilla. David Lyon, switch hitting catcher. The 1-1 pitch is coming. Now a ball and 2 strikes. Carson facing Bonilla, and you look at Bonilla's stats, and he's not very often had a year that he's been a full-time starter. He's only had 1 year where he had 15 starts. That was back in 2011. Pretty much a reliever each year. And he gets a strikeout here. He froze Matt Carson at home plate. Carson looked like a statue.
He dropped a nice curveball, it looked like. Sharp breaker.
3rd strikeout for Bonilla. And the Rangers, talking about Bonilla, saw him 3 of his 5 appearances last year as a starter. And I think the feeling is that he still has the ability, certainly it looks like he has the ability to be a starter. They've stretched him out this spring, putting him in that competition for the number 5 spot, with the idea that if he didn't make that, he's already had relieving experience, so he could always slip into a long man role or be a starter at AAA if necessary.
Well, the Rangers could conceivably have a rotation in AAA of 5 guys who have some big league experience, all of whom could be considered potential call-ups during the year, depending on the need. A lot more depth in the starting rotation this year than last year. Even with the injury to Darvish, there's still more guys that you feel somewhat comfortable with than there were last year.
Bonilla facing a young man from New Braunfels. That's Tyler Ogle. Rip and a miss. It's a ball and 2 strikes. Ogle came in as a replacement for Yasmani Grandal. Excuse me, he's on deck. This is Grandal here, switch hitter. And he has gone on strike. So Bonilla, back-to-back strikeouts, now has 4 this afternoon.
He gave up a home run. He gave up a run in the last inning, but he's also made a lot of good pitches. Threw a nice curveball to get a strikeout. He's had a pretty good changeup. Occasionally located his fastball pretty well to go along with it.
This would be Tyler Ogle. Got a chance to play in last night's ball game. Had a lot of family and friends in attendance. 273 last year at Rancho Cucamonga, an A team for the Dodgers.
Another good curveball by Lisaberto.
1-1 the count. Now a ball and 2 strikes. Well, 2 weeks from Monday, the Rangers open the 2015 season at Oakland. It's an opening night out there in Oakland. They open with 4 in the Bay Area. And then the home opener the following Friday against the Houston Astros. Call strike 3. Ogle got caught ogling that. And Bonilla strikes out 3 after the leadoff single. Stretch half of the ball game. Bottom of the 7th coming up. 6-0 Dodgers on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by Whataburger. Proud to serve it hot and fresh 24 hours a day. And by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. The crowd grabbing a little excitement here this afternoon. They haven't seen a whole lot yet from the Rangers offensively. Pretty good pitching by the Dodgers thus far, with Greinke and Nicasio working 6 shutout innings. Also racked up 10 strikeouts between the two of them. And as we head to the bottom of the 7th inning, we get Ryan Buchter, the left-hander, on the hill now for the Dodgers. There's some Dodger fans. Dodgers used to have the Double-A team down here in San Antonio, the Missions, and for better than 20 years. Now the Padres have this as their Double-A affiliate. Buchter on the hill, and he will face Ed Lucas to start things off for the Rangers. Buchter, a big, tall left-hander. First pitch to Lucas is off the plate inside for ball 1. One ball and 1 strike. Lucas last year with Miami, a .251 average. Versatile utility type infielder. Takes that pitch low and in. Facing the 28-year-old left-hander Ryan Buchter. Buckner's making his 5th appearance of spring training here this afternoon. He fires a strike to even the count. The 2-2. Buckner back to the plate. Got him swinging. Fouled into the glove. Grandal. So that is, or Ogle, I should say. That is out number 1.
The Dodgers have definitely had their strikeouts going for him today. Of course, you would expect that from Zach Greinke. Zach Greinke was at the top of his game with good stuff today. Struck out 6. And Juan Nicasio, featuring a hard slider, struck out 4 in 2 innings. And right off the bat, Buckner gets a strikeout.
It's like Carlos Peguero has come off the Ranger bench. He's going to hit for Brian Ledwick, who's the DH. The first pitch is in from Buckner. It's strike 1. Last year at AAA for Kansas City. Boy, Peguero put up some monster numbers. 30 home runs playing with the Storm Chasers up in Omaha. Rangers kind of hoping that he'll be on a similar path that, say, Nelly Cruz was, a late bloomer. And
it happens from time to time. You hope you get the guy at the right time.
Yep.
We talked a lot about Turner for the Dodgers. They got him at the right time. He was a minor league free agent. After bouncing around and playing a lot. A little bit in the big leagues, a lot in the minor leagues. You know one thing, if he does put it all together, he's got a chance to do some damage with the power that he's got.
Sure does.
That ball just really jumps off his bat.
There you go.
Rolls one out in the shallow right field. The second baseman Sweeney. Sidearm snap throw for out number 2. So Peguero, the second out of the inning. And now Wilder Rodriguez will come up for his first at bat. Rodriguez, the veteran of a lot of minor league action, made his major league debut last year with the Rangers. Not a happier man in all of Major League Baseball when he got the call to the big leagues and got a chance to break into the big leagues for the first time. One ball, one strike. Buckner back to the plate. 1-2. Pop-up that will drift foul down the right side over into the Ranger bullpen. Just a little bit inside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Wilder, now a 31-year-old. He's from Venezuela, broke into professional ball back in 2001. Got him swinging. Out and in, stays in the glove of Ogle, and that'll do it. A couple of strikeouts in the inning. Rangers go quietly, and we have finished 7 in San Antonio. It's the Dodgers 6, Rangers nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. baseball fan, certainly America's presidents and America's pastime at the George W. Bush Presidential Library on the campus of SMU in Dallas. A great exhibit, and Tom, I know that you're very familiar with a lot of the stuff that's being shown there.
Yeah, it's almost like a Hall of Fame exhibit. It's got a lot of things from many presidents. It's got a lot of things from President Bush's time with the Rangers. There he is with Richard Green, Tom Vandergriff, and Tom Schieffer. One of my favorites right there, Buzz, is when he threw out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium after 9/11. You see him in the stands at the old ballpark talking to Nolan Ryan. And one thing I always remember about President Bush, when he came to a Ranger game, he sat next to the dugout. He stayed for all 9 innings. Didn't matter how hot it was down there in the sun. He was a fan. He loved the game. And this is a really nice exhibit. Some of the things that they've got there, they have the green letter from President Roosevelt urging that baseball go on during World War II. A lot of Hall of Fame autographs. There's President Clinton showing off his left arm. We were in Baltimore way back when President Clinton threw out the first pitch. So that's going to be on all summer long, and that's a great exhibit. Pretty tough to get from Texas up to Cooperstown to see the Hall of Fame exhibit, but it's pretty easy to get over to the Bush Library and see, among other things, a great baseball exhibit all the way from March 21st through October 4th.
And tickets and information, tickets.bushcenter.org. We'll get you all the information and the reservations for tickets that you want. Eighth inning, and Bonilla firing a strike in there, and that is Witherspoon getting a first pitch single to right field. Witherspoon, who entered last inning, Travis Witherspoon, a base hit to right as he starts off the 8th inning for the Dodgers. Dodgers now with 11 base hits today.
I got to give the Dodgers credit in these 2 games. They've taken advantage of the dimensions here at the ballpark, and they've hit a couple of cheap home runs, but pretty much 1 through 9 in the lineup on both nights, they have hit the ball hard. They've swung the bats, all of them. Guys that start, the kids that come in. Been a pretty impressive offensive performance by the Dodgers.
That pitch bounced well in front of home plate by Luis Alberto Bonilla. It gets by Lyon and all the way to the backstop. That allows Witherspoon to head into second base.
Well, Bonilla had a good 7th inning. He gave up a hit to Hazelbaker to start the inning and then had 3 straight strikeouts. He's had 5 strikeouts in his 3 innings on the mound. Trying to withstand a leadoff hit here in the 8th inning.
Darnell Sweeney, the hitter, his first at bat of the afternoon, although he did enter as a pinch runner after the 6th inning. Sweeney last year at Chattanooga, 288 average. Pretty good pop. You saw 14 home runs. It's a strike on the inside corner.
One of those good fastballs that looks like it's going to be inside and then tails right back over the inside corner. Hitter sees it most of the way, figures it's going to be inside. A lot of times they're surprised to hear the call from the umpire. They don't even realize it's come back and caught the corner of the plate.
That's a line drive base hit to left center. That'll score a run as Witherspoon around to make the 7th run of the afternoon for the Dodgers. Go on the board and an RBI single for Sweeney. Looked like Bonilla tried to make that same pitch and didn't quite get it where he wanted to. That stayed up and out over the plate. And Sweeney capitalized.
I guess that's the name of the game for the Dodgers, is they have taken advantage of a lot of the pitches that haven't been located exactly where the Ranger pitchers are trying to throw them.
Now Kyle Jensen for his 2nd at bat.
But he has made some pretty good pitches with that curveball.
Jensen came on in the 6th inning and walked in his first plate appearance. No balls and 2 strikes. Jensen out of Walnut Creek, California, just inland from the Bay Area. Marlins last year had played 133 games and hit 260. 1-2. Got him swinging. Bonilla records his 6th strikeout of the afternoon.
Another good curveball. That's probably been his best pitch in his 3 1/3 innings. Trying to get through 4 innings here. Getting his pitch count up there a little bit, but another look at his curveball that had Jensen well out in front of it.
Go back to the top of the order for the Dodgers. And first ball swinging, fouled back and out of play. Nate Sampson. Sampson's first at bat this afternoon. Ball's hit well to right center field, up the alley. Delino to Shields, can't get it, it's off the wall. Backed up nicely by Lewis Brinson, and that'll hold runners at second and third. But Shields looked like he thought he had a pretty good bead drawn on it. Just at the last second, collided with the wall. At the same time, the ball got there.
When an outfielder is going in that direction in right center field to catch a ball, you don't expect the fence to sneak up on you like that at 330 feet. You're used to being able to go a lot deeper than that because the fence definitely curves out to 370, 380 feet right there. So when you're running across, I think the fence might have snuck up on him right there. You just don't assume that there's going to be a fence there. I guess you've looked and seen it, but at the same time, your instincts kind of take over when you're going after the ball like that.
Now Buck Britton is swinging a miss for strike one. I would think in a ballpark like with the dimensions you're talking about here, you would be a little timid about going anywhere near for not having a good feel for where the wall is going to be.
Yeah, fortunately, it looks like a fairly soft wall, so he ran into it fairly hard, but it looks like he's okay. You can remember some of the old minor league parks. You didn't play in the minor leagues as long as I did, but I played in a park in Spartanburg back in the 60s that had a cinder block fence. So you definitely didn't go after a ball near the wall there. That ball you hit a line drive off that ball, it would bounce back to second base.
1-1 the count to Britton. He pounds one to right center field. That is deep and gone. A 3-run home run for Buck Britton, and it's a 9-0 Dodger lead. Make that 10.
It's been a pretty effective spot in the order for the Dodgers. Turner had a 2-run homer earlier in the ball game, and now a 3-run homer later in the ball game by his replacement. And fastball, tried to get it in, didn't quite get it there. Britton had a pretty good swing on it, hit it pretty well. And takes advantage of a 330-foot power alley.
The pride of Weatherford, Texas. Never know with that fly ball. There's a fly ball to center, up in the middle of everything. Boy, even tentative on those, you got to make sure you keep your eye on the ball the whole time. Delano DeShields did that. All you have to do is have a carom, and the ball's going to disappear. That's out number 2.
And at the ballpark in Minnesota, the old ballpark, the Metrodome, they had a kind of a gray surface to their ceiling there. And when you looked up, you could see the ball. But many times as the ball is rubbed up, it's almost the same color as the ceiling. If you took your eye off the ball and then looked up again, you couldn't pick the ball up. And this probably has a little bit of that going on as well. You've got a lot of things. You've got reflections on metal from the lights. You've got the lights themselves. You've got the gray roof. So there's a lot of things going on with this roof that can contribute to the outfielder not getting a real good read on the ball.
And you'd have to play here an awful lot to get used to whatever caroms there are.
Yeah. Yeah, this may green monster looked like a picnic.
Yep. Low and outside, 1 or 2 balls and a strike to Matt Carson. The Dodgers 10 runs on 14 hits here this afternoon. Luis Alberto Bonilla in his 4th inning of work, running into some major problems. A couple of singles, a double, and a 3-run home run. Two and two the count to Carson. Got him swinging. Well, for Bonilla, seems like it's either the penthouse or the basement. That's 7 strikeouts, but gives up 4 runs in the inning. We're going to the bottom of the 8th, 10-0 Los Angeles on Fox Sports Southwest. The Texas Rangers 10 game plans are still on sale, and they'll be on sale through the end of March. You can choose from 6 available plans and save up to 17% off gate prices. But all of you have to get opening day free in that package. Visit TexasRangers.com/10 game plans for details and to purchase. But hurry, your last day to purchase them is coming up. It's March 30th. Opening day for the Rangers, of course, at home will be the Houston Astros on the 10th. Opening day on the road this year for Texas in Oakland. Bottom of the 8th inning, Ramon Troncoso, right-hander out of the Dominican Republic, takes over on the hill. He becomes the 4th Dodger pitcher used this afternoon. And Lewis Brinson taking strike 1. Troncoso last year at AAA Omaha with the Kansas City Royals. 1-6 with a 4.30. Brinson chops one foul. Brinson last year, the up-and-coming stars of the Ranger organization, played at Myrtle Beach. 246 average, trying to get his game established. Behind the bag at third, knocked down by Britton. That's the only thing he'll be able to do, is he picks it up and tosses it back to Troncoso. No, an infield single for Lewis Brinson.
Well, the Rangers over the last few years have really replenished their minor league system. They've signed a lot of players. And one thing they haven't done, they haven't signed little guys. They've signed some big guys, athletic-looking guys. Brinson is another one. You see him in his uniform, watch him run the bases, watch him play the outfield, swing the bat. Time will tell whether he develops into a frontline big league player or not, but you certainly like the physical attributes that he has, and they've got a farm system filled with guys like that.
Very, very athletic.
Yeah, a lot of guys like that.
Now Ryan Strasburger, the hitter for the first time this afternoon. First time in this series, as a matter of fact. A rip and a miss. It's 1 ball, or no balls, and 2 strikes. Strasburger last year on the verge of being called up several times. I remember correctly. Rangers, of course, went through that miserable year where, boy, whoever was healthy in the minor league system looked like he could be called up at any time. But Strasburger got as high as 270 at Round Rock, settled down at 258. Had a little pop, 5 home runs. And just shy of 90 AAA games last year. He's fouled back. And it misses everything. As far as the cables hanging down, goes back into the seats. 1-2. Strasburger now a 27-year-old. He's out of Indiana State University. Ranger selected him in the 16th round of the 2010 draft. Brinson at first, nobody out here in the bottom of the 8th. To center field, Witherspoon gliding to his left. 1 gone. Well, and so many of these young Dodger outfielders too, like Witherspoon, he looks like he can just run standing there. And he can too, playing center field. He a big, tall, lanky young man.
Yeah, he looks pretty much exactly like Lewis Brinson. They could switch uniforms and be the same player. Dodger players, young players, have been impressive in this series.
Seth Spivey is the hitter now. He took over for Rougned Odor at second base inning before last.
Well, Buzz, you were saying that Steve Buechele was going to try to get every position player into a game. And I think he's accomplished that. Had a couple of pitchers maybe that haven't gotten into a game, but all the position players have. And tough to get all the pitchers in when you've got 2 pitchers in the game that you hope can both pitch 4 innings. Today, Renato and Bonilla at times struggled, but both of them got through 4 innings. Doesn't leave a lot of innings for the other guys in the bullpen.
Well, Seth Spivey, Brenham, Texas native. Went to Abilene Christian. The Rangers drafted him 10th round of last year. Chops that one foul. Spivey spent the 2014 season up at Spokane, the short season A-League. At .332 in his first foray into professional baseball. Abilene Christian, of course, a very good proving ground for a lot of young men that get into professional baseball. They've had a lot of kids sign out of there. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Spivey just 22. He goes 5'11", 170 pounds. Troncoso back to the plate. Little dribbler back to the mound. Only play is to first. Spivey out into second, and scoring position goes Lewis Brinson. 2 gone. Trevor Adams will be the hitter. Saw Adams last night. Spent 2014 primarily at Frisco at Double-A. He's advanced one level each of his first 4 years in the minor league system. Takes a strike there. Adams out of Creighton University. 16th round pick back in 2011 for the Rangers. $14 home runs last year after hitting 11 the year before in Myrtle Beach. Well, you might see a guy that's developing maybe 20 home run power. Going to have to go back and get a new piece of lumber, though, to work with. That was broken off. Hoggle will have to talk to Troncoso. Still trying to find a bat that Trevor Adams can use.
That's when you just grab the closest one to you and don't care whose it is. Adrian Beltre, I'll worry about that after this at bat. I got to get something and get back up to home plate.
He's got to make sure you don't come up with a fungo.
You ever have a dream where you're trying to get in the ballpark and the gate's closed, or you can't get your socks on, or you can't find your bat?
Oh, yeah, and you feel, yeah.
That reminded me of that. You go to get your bat, you can't find a bat, you know the game's going, your heart starts pounding, and you wake up.
No balls and 2 strikes, the count. Now 1-2. Adams originally grew up in the Omaha area. And a little roller down the third base line veers off into foul territory. We'll come back and try it again. Buck Britton, pride of Weatherford. Ramon Troncoso, the fourth hurler used this afternoon by the Dodgers. So far, they have shut the Rangers out on just 4 hits. 4 hits and 12 strikeouts registered by the Dodger pitchers. Sharply hit off the glove of Sampson and trickles out into left field for a base hit. Boy, that was a bullet.
That looked like it did something that fooled the shortstop. Must have been a hooking rope. Tough to call that thing an infield hit, but I guess it is. See if he takes a step the other way. Yeah, he takes a step towards second base, and the ball came back to his right side. So he either didn't pick it up off the bat, which is entirely possible. A lot of white shirts behind home plate, the ball blends into it, or the ball was hooking or knuckling maybe and fooled him.
That's going to go as an infield hit, and we're going to have a little visit to the mound. Chuck Krim, the pitching coach, out there to have just a brief talk with Ramon Troncoso.
He went out last night, Buzz, and I wouldn't call it a brief talk. He was out there till the umpire came out and got him. He had to take advantage of the airtime. 2 outs and 2 men on in a spring training game.
In a 10-0 game.
In a 10-0 game.
And meanwhile, David Lyon is waiting for his first at bat of the afternoon. Lyon came on to replace Chris Jimenez. Lyon out of Kent State University. He drives that to right and deep. If it's high enough, it's gone. It is gone.
Boy, that guy went to catch it, got drilled right in the chest with it. Might have broken his ribs. I hope he's all right.
Well, the Rangers are on the board, and with a little bit of thunder from David Lyon. A rope 3-run home run. 10-3 now the score.
These last two hitters really hit the ball hard. Adams hit a line drive to shortstop so hard the shortstop couldn't catch it. And Lyon drilled that rope so hard he might have sent one of the fans to the hospital. I don't know what the pitching coach told him, but he must not have listened.
I don't think he's going to tell anybody that ever again. Lyon had 8 home runs last year, and boy, he hit one solidly here today. That takes the Rangers back to the top of the order. Delino to Shields, who was out on a great play. Well, the shortstop Hernandez, the first time up.
That's the guy that ended up with the ball. We're going to try to take a replay. I couldn't tell exactly where it hit him, but I don't think he's got a glove, and I don't think he got a hand on it. He's sitting there wondering how he's going to walk out of the stadium right now.
He looks a little bit worse for wear.
This is solid contact right there, boy. Right there, too. Oh, I'm laughing. I hope he's okay. He's got to have a cracked rib.
Man,
that was a rocket. As long as he's smiling, I'm going to get my good laugh in.
A little cue shot foul down the first base side.
I hope he's okay. He's keeping a stiff upper lip, but he's got to be hurting. Luckily, he's got a little bit of padding with his jacket. But other guys say, thank God it was you. Would have had me, the same thing would have happened. He's going to come in catcher's gear next year if he sits there. There's where it hit him.
Got him right in the heart.
They say, can you get up? Nope, I can't get up.
DeShields fights that pitch off foul. Still 2-2. I can't think of too many parks where you sit in right field and have to worry about getting
don't have time
blasted. But
don't have time to get out of the way.
You get locked up by a line drive right at you.
I don't think Lyon could possibly hit the ball any harder than he hit that pitch. That's as hard a ball as we've seen the last 2 days, and there's been some ropes hit.
Now 3-2 now the count to the Shields. Delino trying to keep this Ranger 8th alive. Troncoso with the payoff pitch. Left center field. Moving over is Carson. He puts it away, and that'll do it. But David Lyon gets the Rangers on the board. A 3-run blast. 3 runs on 3 hits. To the 9th we go. 10-3 Los Angeles. Rangers cut into the deficit a bit. It's 10-3 Los Angeles. A 3-run blast by David Lyon. And we go to the top of the 9th inning. David Martinez has come out of the Ranger bullpen to take over on the hill.
You know, we had a pretty good laugh on that ball that hit that guy out there. But his friend that's with him hasn't stopped laughing. That guy's been laughing for about 15 minutes. And that's the only reason we're laughing, is because he's smiling about it. I don't want to see anyone get hurt out there.
I'm a little concerned, though. He still hasn't gotten up out of his chair.
No, but his friend is still getting on him.
Yeah.
That's 15 minutes later.
They've got to be good friends.
They are. Yeah. Between innings, he's taking the ball and putting the ball on his chest where it hit him. Well, he's got fans he doesn't even know are getting on him behind him. Well, better him than that little girl behind him.
That, by the way, was Sean Zaraga who got the leadoff single for the Dodgers here in the top of the 9th. David Martinez, the 27-year-old right-hander out of Cumana, Venezuela.
Damn, that was good.
In case you didn't see it, here's what we were laughing at. Gonna make the catch. Whoops. You know what? It wouldn't have mattered if he had a glove. It still wasn't going to hit the ball. He must be okay. He might have gotten hurt worse going after it than he did when he got hit by it.
I don't know if he was going after the ball or he got doubled over in pain.
But his buddy's a Ranger fan, so I'm not going to get on him.
No, not him. You're in Atlanta and it's 105 and black.
Wait, where's Jim Knox when you need him?
Yeah, exactly.
That could have been a gem right there.
Tyler Ogle takes a bit high. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. I'm not sure even Knoxy could have gotten him to do an interview after that. Maybe his buddy. There's a base hit to left by the dive of Rodriguez. First and second after a couple of singles. Travis Witherspoon coming up. Dodgers now with 16 hits this afternoon. Witherspoon had one of those 16 hits with a base hit back in the 8th, his first at bat of the afternoon. David Martinez, formerly of the Houston Astros organization, fires a strike. He has seen a total of 7 big league ball games with the Astros. 4 of them in 2013 and 3 of them last year. Signed with the Rangers as a minor league free agent this past offseason. To center field, Delino DeShields peering up into the accoutrements of the roof. All the various things hanging down, and Delino able to capture that fly ball for the first out. Now Darnell Sweeney will come up. And Martinez looking back to make sure he knows who's going to cover second base on a ground ball back to the mound. Left-handed hitter up there. You'd usually be working with the shortstop. And the way the Ranger infield is deployed, maybe a step around to the right side, so the shortstop would have responsibility on a comebacker. So you had Lucas shading towards second base. Now 2 balls and no strikes.
like, it's two different things. Okay, prepare.
Darnell Sweeney, an RBI base hit in the 8th inning. And he's way out in front of the count now, 3-0. Martinez back to the plate. And the Rangers finish up this big league weekend here in San Antonio. Head back to surprise Arizona after the ball game. Chopper to first. Tough play for Adams. The second, they just do get the force on the sliding ogle.
Yeah, pretty nice play. The ball took a little funny hop. You could tell Adams really bearing down trying to catch that ball. Looked like a routine play, but it really wasn't. See if we can catch that hop right here. Kind of bounces toward the right field line, but he stayed with it nicely, and they made a strong throw to second base to get the runner. And see him, he thought he was in front of it, had to reach back, but makes a great throw.
Well, Trevor Adams, pretty fancy footwork getting in position to make that throw.
Yeah.
Runners at the corners now and 2 outs. Kyle Jensen loops one into center. That's going to fall for a base hit. A run is home. Stopping at second is Sweeney, and the Dodgers, with the RBI single from Jensen, now have an 11-3 lead. Didn't hit it hard, but got it in the right spot. Well, first and second, still 2 outs. Back to the top of the order, Nate Sampson. He had a double and scored a run his first time. Couldn't check his swing, and it's a strike. So tomorrow, Rangers back in surprise. They will take on the Seattle Mariners. They travel over to Peoria to take on Seattle. Giovanni Gallardo will be the man on the mound for the Rangers. James Paxton making his first appearance in an A ball game this spring. Will toe the hill for Seattle. Martinez ready for the 1-1 pitch. You mentioned getting down now to the last 2 weeks of spring training. Rangers will finish up in surprise on the 30th. Come home, play the New York Mets. 2 exhibition games at Globe Life Park. And then head to Oakland. Like I said, 30th, 31st would be the last game. Well, the Rangers in surprise. Now the 2-2. In the dirt. Nice stop by David Lyon. Mets come in for a Friday night game on April the 3rd and a Saturday afternoon, a 1:05 affair on the 4th. And then it all starts in earnest on Monday the 6th. We'll try it again. Runners are on the move on a 3-2 count with 2 outs. Both Sweeney and Jensen retracing their steps, and Nate Sampson will wait another 3-2 pitch. 25,434 the announced attendance here this afternoon. No, just around 46,000 total attendance for the 2 ball games. Check swing, ball 4. That will load up the bases for Buck Britton. And Steve Buechele headed out the mound, and he's going to make a pitching change. Well, David Martinez not able to extricate himself from the inning after 22 pitches. He is gone, and he will turn over a bases loaded 2-out jam. We'll tell you about the new pitcher when we come back to the Alamo Dome right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Have turned things over in the ninth inning to Ryan Slack, 22-year-old left-hander. He is taking over on the hill for David Martinez.
Well, Boo gets one man closer to giving everybody an opportunity. Pretty good numbers for Ryan last year at Hickory. Winning record, good ERA of 3.67. Pretty good walk to strikeout ratio. Coming off a good minor league season.
Not suck now, Buck.
Ryan Slack, one of those oddities anymore in baseball, an undrafted free agent when he signed with the Rangers back in 2012.
Well, that is unusual.
Out of 96, South Carolina. That's the name of his hometown. 96.
96?
Yep. 96, South Carolina.
Wow.
He inherits a bases loaded 2-out jam, and Buck Britton, who homered his last time up there. Left-hander against left-hander in this situation.
Bring it now. Yeah.
2 balls, no strikes. Britton 1 for 2 this afternoon. Slack back to the plate.
Damn.
Loop. Oh, running catch by Wheeldad Rodriguez going toward the line, and that ball had just enough off of it to allow the catch. A run on 3 hits and 3 left. Bottom of the ninth coming up, 11-3 LA. Ranger faithful hoping for a big comeback here in the ninth inning. 11-3, the Dodgers leading the Rangers. And the Rangers now will face the fifth different pitcher here this afternoon, and it's right-hander Josh Raven. Raven signed as a minor league free agent with the Dodgers back before the 2014 season. Originally out of Tarzana, California. Signed with the Cincinnati Reds organization. He was a fifth-round pick by Cincinnati back in 2006. Dodgers acquired him, and Raven spent 2014 bouncing between Albuquerque and AA Chattanooga. So on here to face Ed Lucas to start things off for the Rangers. Lucas takes a strike. Dodgers 11 runs on 17 hits. The Rangers 3 runs on 6 hits. Oh, 1 pitch. That will even the count. Raven this spring making his 5th appearance. Worked a total of 3 2/3 innings for the Dodgers. Not allowed to run. You know, Lucas trying to check his swing, and it ended up looking like a half-hearted swing. Went around and said, no, couldn't quite hold that one back. The 1-2.
There you go.
Call strike 3.
Yes.
They've been popping an outside corner, gets a strikeout. 1 gone. That is the 13th strikeout by Dodger pitching this afternoon.
Oh, a pretty good fastball right there. Again, we don't have radar gun speeds, but looks like it might have been one of the better fastballs of the day, velocity-wise, right on the outside corner.
There's Carlos Peguero for his second at-bat. Peguero came on in the 7th inning, grounded out to second base. And he had a rip on that first fastball, fouling it straight back. Peguero, a menacing-looking left-handed hitter up there. Got fisted, fouled that off. He's a huge man at 6'5" and listed at 260 pounds out of the Dominican Republic. Judge's AAA numbers last year at Omaha with the Royals. 30 home runs. He's also hit as many as 31 in previous years with the Seattle Mariner minor league system. Hasn't been able to get that to translate to the big leagues yet. The 28-year-old. He has seen a total of just 69 major league games in his career. Breaking ball. Boy, that locked him up.
Pretty nice breaking ball. He looks like he's throwing hard, and you've seen a bunch of fastballs and you never faced the kid before, and all of a sudden he drops that hook on you. That's pretty much what you're going to do, is sit there and look at it.
Back-to-back strikeouts for Josh Raven. Wow. 2 away. Wilder Rodriguez will face Raven. Rodriguez a strikeout, his only trip to home plate today. Ravens 1-0 pitch. Hit well to right field. That's down and going to be off the wall for a base hit. I would say it was held him to a long single. That really is not even a long single. It's a single.
Yeah, that's one where you don't even try to catch it and take a chance on the ball hitting you and rolling away. You just play it off the wall for a single. A rope by Wheel there, but he just calmly playing it, going to go pick it up. Knows the batter can't get to second base.
Well, the 7th hit of the afternoon for the Rangers has Rodriguez aboard, but 2 outs here in the 9th. Lewis Brinson is the hitter. And that's a good breaking ball from Raven. Brinson had an infield single in his first at bat back in the 8th inning. One ball, one strike. Vincent a little tardy pulling the trigger, and the count moves to 1-2. Brinson, another one of those very, very athletic young Rangers. You know, it seemed like guys like him used to be the oddity. They'd stand out. Now it's almost like everybody they sign's like that.
I know. I can remember not being one of the biggest guys on a team, but certainly above average as far as size goes.
A rope to center. That's down, and over to cut it off. Witherspoon. That's going to be that is a very long single. Stopping at third is Rodriguez. Brinson shot that ball off the wall in no time. Back-to-back 2-out base hits.
Now, if we walk down in the clubhouse now, we're shrimps down there compared to the players nowadays. There's a nice quick swing and a pretty good fastball on the inside part of the plate. Oh, very satisfying at bat for Lewis. He's got a couple of hits, an infield hit, and a line shot to right field. He'll enjoy that trip back to Surprise.
2 outs. Ryan Strasburger trying to get the Rangers a little bit closer. Strasburger 0 for 1, a fly ball to center field. And there's the breaking ball for a strike.
Come on, Ryan.
From Raven.
Let's go. Cap. Bring in the run. We'll go to second. We'll go to first. And you reach
Swing and a miss.
Come on, Ryan.
Nothing in 2. Raven to the plate. Got him swinging. Good, and check it in time, and that is going to do it. It turns out to be a 3-strikeout inning for Josh Raven. Rangers get a couple of hits in strand 2, and they come up short this afternoon. The final score, the Dodgers 11 and the Rangers 3. We'll come back to the Alamo Dome to wrap things up for you right after this on Fox Sports Southwest.